Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. And today we are jumping into the review of the Mattel Jurassic World Legacy Collection, Diplodocus. Now, been waiting on this for a while. It's been pre-ordered. Finally came in. This is, as it says on the box, 56 inches long, which is actually longer than the Mamentosaurus, which later on we're going to bring into the video, which is, if I'm not mistaken, 49 inches long. So this Diplodocus is actually longer than Mamentosaurus. In addition to that, um, it is actually the opposite to Mamentosaurus in that Mamentosaurus is supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, the dinosaur with the longest neck, while Diplodocus is the dinosaur with the longest tail. But overall, Diplodocus is the longest for the most part in terms of the ones that we fully know of. I think it might even be longer than any one that we do know of, but it definitely is within that bracket of the top three of the longest dinosaurs. And its overall length is about um somewhere around like almost 90 feet, 80, somewhere between 85 and 90 feet long. And through doing the conversion at 56 inches, it falls right into that realm. Um, I will actually do the math for you now really quickly. That is 56 inches. 89.6 is what that would convert to if the height of your average man, like this Owen figure right here, equates to roughly about 6 inches or 6 feet, I'm sorry, or 3.7 inches, 3.7, I'm probably 3.75 or 3.25 inch figure as a 6 foot person, roughly, is how I get my scaling. That would put this thing roughly at where it should be. Now we're going to run through the box. I'm going to have to end up doing a wide angle in a few, um, just to be able to see things. And it was a vertical stance on it. I'm sorry that once I do that, I'm going to end up getting a lot more in frame than I want to, but there's no other way for me to get this shot in. So I'm going to open up the box. I'm going to pull all the pieces out, and then we're going to get to it. Alrighty, so we've got the box open. And unfortunately, I cut myself doing it. It's not too bad. There's some Vaseline on it. You guys be careful when opening the box as well. Let's see here. Can we get this out? Okay, here we go. I think it's so impressive on what Mattel does here when it comes to their figures, these large sauropod figures, and packing them into a box that is like half the size of what the figure is once the figure is put together. And the quality you get with these figures for the price is something that when I was younger, this was unheard of to get fig toys that are this big, especially for this price range. I'm not saying that it's cheap either, but at the same time, it's still a lot of figure, and they often go on sale. So let's see here. I was fortunate enough during the pre-order to catch this on a sale. I forget how much I had off, but it was like one of those spend a certain amount of money and get a certain amount off. So I think it was like at Target. Um, if there's a link available for Amazon, I'm going to put that in the description. But I purchased this at Target, and they usually have a lot of good deals at Target. So if you happen to see a better deal at Target, I think all the legacy collections are only at Target. So if you happen to see a good deal, jump on it. I think the one I purchased said something like spend something like $75 and get $20 off or something like that. So I added an extra toy in the mix for my sons and got a discount. So I only have two other of the long necks. I'm more of a fan of the dinosaurs that we have complete sculpts of and are not known from just one bone or something like that. So obviously, ones like the Diplodocus and Brachiosaurus were always very known. Mentosaurus became kind of famous from Jurassic Part 2. It's the QR code, and it's not standing up on my figure. Now, one thing already I could tell you that I really like is the feet. Now, maybe Momentosaurus is just a larger dinosaur in general with his body size and all, because I know he's supposed to be a pretty long dinosaur, but this one's feet I mentioned doing a review on Momentosaurus that its feet were not, I didn't like the proportion of his feet because his front feet were almost as large as his back feet, not as big, but both of its feet were larger than Brachiosaurus's feet. And I just felt like Brachiosaurus, in my opinion, I mean, the numbers are there in terms of the size, but I just feel like it should have been a more bulkier, have bigger feet than the Mentosaurus. Mentosaurus being more of a lengthier dinosaur, though I did quote inside that video that I wasn't sure, exactly how big, if the Mentosaurus's actual statistics and size are, either over exaggerated, under exaggerated, or what might be the case. This is a very long tail. Yeah, I'm going to do a wider angle in a bit, but I just want to be able to. All right, you guys, sorry you guys are seeing the background of a lot of extra stuff, but there's no way for me to get everything in. I went to the wide angle now. You can see here how long that tail is, and true to form, Diplodocus's tail is the longest part of its body, and here you can see that is true to form. It is very, very long. Now, this is obviously anyone familiar with these knows that once you lock it in there, you should never have to worry about that ever again. In terms of, like I didn't get a nice snap with this, putting this in, but it feels like it's in there. So now the weight of his tail is so much, it will not hold until I get this neck in here to counterbalance it. You could see here, though he has a long neck, his neck is not as long as his tail, which is how Diplodocus works. So there is absolutely no way for me to get this whole thing on screen. All right, so I am trying here. There is no way for me to get this entire figure onto the screen. And I'm sure a lot of guys who try to review this figure have had the same problems. I am at my wide angle. I don't want to go too much further back because I know, well, I can't even go actually really any further back, but that's about the best that I can do. Let me try to move him as far back in the background as possible. Okay, that's about where you see the tail tipping up at that end. Is the furthest length over there. I know that at this point the camera angle feels almost a little bit distorted. Hopefully, Owen gives you a sense of scale to how things are looking, but you could see that he is huge. I'm going to zoom in just to give you a sense of the real scale without the distortion of the body, and you can see just the details on the skin look right up there with all the rest. I'm really a fan that these Legacy Collection um, these legacy collection sauropods have such great articulation for not being a Hammond collection version, where the neck, similar to as I showed them on the Mamentosaurus, the neck is has the ball joint for articulation, and the mouth. I'm about to get into that in a moment, and the tail can turn at this point, and this point here and this point here can both swivel. You can see the really nice little spines on the top of its. They're soft, which is nice and kid friendly. Um, they're soft all the way through, which is very interesting because I guess they don't want to make sure that a kid doesn't get hurt. That's very nice. And you see them going all the way from this point on the tail, where I'm just pointing with the pen, all the way to the back of his neck. So that's amazing. The detail of the extra paint stripes go all the way back here to the midpoint of the tail, which is nice. And unlike some dinosaurs where they won't paint all aspects of it or cut short on a certain portion of the tail, though the stripes stop here, you get this nice brown color at the far end, which continues. So it's not a matter of they didn't want to put paint application, they just changed it, you could say, and put that brown tip at the end. And then obviously on the front neck area, you also have that same kind of darker brown. So they really did a great job with the paint, I feel, in this, this time around. Not to say the other ones aren't great as well, but it seems like the other ones have more of like a dull type of paint, and this is very like bright and someone had mentioned before that this is kind of similar in terms of its design, maybe not colorway, but its shape to the Walking with Dinosaurs series, and I agree with that. This is just a great Diplodocus. Keep saying Diplodosaurus in my head. Diplodocus. This is just amazing, and the truth is that what's interesting. Fun fact: we haven't had a Diplodocus dinosaur figure since, as far as like an official line, a major toy line, since the days of Dino Riders, which was a long old time toy that came from, I want to say they were made by the toy company Tyco, and but I could be mistaken. And that their first long neck in their line was a Diplodocus, and back in those days, it wasn't even really all that big. It was smaller than T Rex actually, because they didn't make everything proportionate and whatnot. So this is just amazing, and let's try to jump into the close up of the head, if I can do that. Okay, see here, opens up the mouth, the ball joint head, the teeth. So you could see that relatively well, I hope. It's so hard to display this figure. And so the one thing that I think a lot of you guys would be waiting for is I am going to put a Mentosaurus into the mix. Now, it's not going to line up great because when you have one figure in the forefront over the other, you don't really get a good sense of how. Yeah, it's going to feel like one dwarfs the other in terms of just how they take up their space. So I'll try to do it in a way where you can kind of see. Essentially, the Podicus is actually longer than Mamentosaurus, but not by much. Like I said, the official numbers are 49 inches versus 56. But what I will say is Mamentosaurus's neck is a little more curved upwards. So you have that sense of, if it was a little more outwards, it probably would You know, this is his natural pose because of the way his head is facing. If I stretch it down more, his head's going to be facing downwards like he's eating. I mean, I could lift the head to face forward, but even then, that really is like for the most part the natural pose of his neck, hang a little higher than um, Diplodocus. My mic is almost about to die soon, so I pray that doesn't get cut off. And you could tell because his body lies a little lower in the front legs versus Metrosaurus, which is a little bit more balanced out, though it's a little shorter in the front. The long end is very high on the I'm sorry, the Diplodocus. I was saying Brachiosaurus. I'm sorry for that. Um, so yes, you can kind of see that whole thing. But once again, the feet, like I said before, I have a problem with that because his front, yeah, feet are larger than Diplodocus's rear feet. And so that to me is an issue. Now we're gonna just do the measurements real quick. Let's see what the body height is on him. It's roughly 11.5 inches at its highest point. And even though they say that it's 56 inches, let's confirm that. Yep, it is definitely. Matter of fact, if his tail wasn't curved at all, you could even say that he's a little longer than that. But let's figure out, let's see, 11.5 comes out to 18.4 feet tall, which is fitting because the Diplodocus, if I'm not mistaken, was 20 feet tall in his base height. And obviously with his length being close to like 90 feet long. So this figure is completely in scale, which is amazing. And it just looks really nice. And the textures and the details and everything about him are just really nice. I am going to end the video now because I don't want my mic to shut off on me. But you guys, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe. And maybe I will do an add-on video later on, just kind of discussing all the sauropods I have. But as always, you guys, and if I have a link that I could put in the description for this, I will. But I don't know if Amazon's going to have it, but you could check for that. And you guys, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.